This is not only a story of those 88 people, but this is a story of so many of us. My name is Anastasia Gajkowska, and when I left my abusive relationship, I wanted to create a movie, a film, a documentary where I interview not only survivors, but thrivers. I mean, people who left abusive relationships and they're really thriving now. I flew to Hollywood to learn the art of making films. I asked 8 questions. This documentary is a sample of combined stories. I use my laptop camera, my phone camera. Many recordings you will see in this documentary were filmed by survivors in their own home. All our participants decided to share their story voluntarily. 88 stories, one soul, one voice, one calling for the whole humanity. Welcome back. In this episode, Exposé experts are talking about how to heal our psyche, our emotions and feelings after leaving an abusive relationship. Enjoy!
The person that was married to my ex-husband was the little girl inside of me.
And so I kept looking in relationships to heal my father via them so that they would love me, so that little girl in me would be loved.
How do I attract a healthy person or a healthy love interest if I have no data for it? I don't know what it looks like. So what happens is those of us who have childhood trauma, who grew up feeling neglected, we feel like there's a resonance between us and an abusive partner. It feels normal for us to chase. It feels normal for us to look outside of ourselves. And so what do we attract? We attract someone who is self-focused while we are other-focused. So if we're talking about a codependent and a narcissist, it's 2 people in a relationship where 2 people focus on one person. You can even be a non-codependent person, just a kind person who has a lot of empathy and who's just very agreeable. That's your personality trait. And you could bump into a narcissist that completely exploits that in you. And you can become someone who tries to please this person because they've conditioned you to be afraid of not obeying them, of not anticipating their needs, of disagreeing with them. So they're training you through abuse patterns like withdrawing love, withdrawing sex, in many different ways to abuse you. And they do this, and in doing that, they're training you out of the self, and they're training you to focus on them. And that's how you lose yourself in that type of a toxic relationship.
We're recreating the familiar. And what do I mean by that? Is when we're children, what happens is we imprint. So we learn by osmosis. So if you think about children as energetic sponges, what we're doing in the world is we're receiving and absorbing information from people, places, and things, but more importantly, the energy that surrounds us, right? So if you grew up in any type of abusive environment, what you're going to do is you're going to deem that as normal. And you see that it is normal for, like in my case, for the men to be quite aggressive and for the men to be quite like verbally abusive. Right? So that's in the form of like putting someone down, in swearing, in yelling, interrupting, in having a short temper, etc. Then that becomes your normal. So what happens is your brain, your mind, your ego then goes, okay, so that is normal, that is familiar, and your brain, your mind, your ego's job is to keep you safe. That is it. Keep you safe, right? And what is safe? It's what's predictable, what is known. So your brain, your mind, your ego goes and tries to recreate that scenario, that situation in your life over and over and over and over and over again, because it knows how to predict it. It knows that this is normal, so I'm going to recreate the familiar. I'm going to recreate the normal.
No matter how much you understand in your cognitive conscious brain that he's not treating me right, or, you know, this isn't healthy, you still have that feeling inside that it's like this longing desire for this person, you know, and it really feels like love. It's just a program that was set into your body, is based on the way that our caretakers emotionally attuned with us before the age of 3. And what emotional attunement means is they would get down on your level and look you in the eye and let you know that they were with you in whatever emotion that you were expressing. They allowed you to be upset. They allowed you to be happy and ecstatic. And, you know, they didn't shut you down when you got excited. And when that happened, you would have a secure attachment style, which in adulthood translates into, I'm comfortable with my emotions. I know that people will be there for me. I know that I can set boundaries. They know inherently and understand that conflict in a relationship is an opportunity for resolution. As that young child, whenever your parent leaves, it's like a tear and a fear of abandonment. First of all, you develop this desperation around your parent leaving at any moment, and you start watching their eyes move this way and that way, and you're like, where are you going? Where are you going? You know, like, what's happening? As an adult, you associate love with abandonment. Love and abandonment become one thing, right? They don't understand relationship without that inconsistency. The avoidant attachment style is developed when the parents were mostly neglectful of the emotional needs of the child. As adults, these are your people that are like playboy type of person. We're in a relationship for 2 to 3 months. As soon as things get very serious, they're out. They find a anxious person, right? And this anxious person is all, you know, very open, emotion on their sleeve, happy to engage and get close. So the avoidant person sees the anxious person and likes that. But the avoidant person, their nervous system can't handle too much of that. They pull away. And when they pull away, that triggers the anxious attachment style to say, oh, there's that inconsistency, must be love.
You've learned that in order to survive, you have to focus on other people to feel safe. So you're externally focused. Lots of times, those of us who have a lot of empathy didn't experience a lot of empathy in childhood. We give everybody empathy because we don't want other people to feel the way we felt as children.
People who tend to be the target of a narcissist, the people who often are highly empathetic. Our most core fundamental human need is to feel accepted within a tribe, which is why most attachment dysfunction come from feeling rejected from your tribe.
You might have been mistreated. You might have been not considered as a whole person. You might have been like your needs didn't matter, your needs got overridden, or you got ridiculed. Maybe you were, teased a lot, or maybe you were actually told you're not a good person, or you're the reason, everyone's suffering, or there's a problem with you. So all these types of messages we internalize and we believe them because they're coming from our caregivers or powerful people in our lives. And then that becomes part of our identity. I'm a bad person, or I'm the problem, or there's something wrong with me, or I'm not good enough, or I'm not lovable. And then we end up, finding other relationships in our lives to kind of, cement that, or and secure that belief again and again, to kind of keep reinforcing it. Sometimes in those relationships there's so much manipulation. Anyone could be easily manipulated. I think especially when we have that anxious attachment, or we already are coming in with a low self-worth, it's just easier for that to happen, to get into an unhealthy dynamic with someone and stay, because love it's mirroring some kind of love that you've had before.
Let's say we've come from a physically abusive system, but this new partner is just verbally abusive, right? Like that can feel better. Well, at least that person doesn't, physically hurt me.
This is what you know. This feels comfortable and you don't know any different. So you're not going to see or feel or experience anything different. We have a bundle of neurons at the top of our spinal cord called the RAS, the reticular activating system. And your reticular activating system acts like your antenna. And your antenna picks up on all the things that you see, you feel, you experience, you taste, you touch, you hear, and it brings that into your awareness, your surroundings. And it's exactly all those things that you start to experience in your life. But you will only experience, see, feel, experience, touch, taste, and hear things that are important to you. Things are based on either your subconscious or your conscious beliefs and what you focus on. So if you believe that relationships are hard, if you believe that you're unworthy, you're undeserving, you're not good enough, whether or not subconsciously or consciously, and if that's what you focus on, or if your version of normal is those kind of relationships, then that is what is going to be brought into your awareness.
We're trying to control the outcome and control a different ending. That's another reason why we return to these patterns.
If what you have grown up with is abuse, we tend to go back to that in the unconscious hope that there will be some resolution.
Be the rescuer, and maybe this time it will be different.
It's about your vibration, okay? So there's a scale of consciousness, it's a scale of emotions, right? Your vibration is basically your energy. Your energy is basically how do you feel? What emotions are you hanging on to, okay? So if you are low vibing, if you are sitting in or feeling feelings of guilt, shame, anger, depression, sadness, anxiety, overwhelm, any of those feelings in regards to relationships or any aspect of your life, you will attract. That's what the law of vibration, law of attraction is based on. You will attract more people, places, and things on that level. So if you are feeling unworthy, if you are feeling undeserving, if you are feeling not good enough, if you are feeling ashamed, if you're feeling guilty, like I felt guilty for so many years because I blamed my parents' divorce and my parents not getting along on myself, which is what a lot of people do, right? Even though it has nothing to do with us, then you're going to attract people on that same vibration. That is it. But when you are vibrating in states of love, of joy, of peace, of abundance, of happiness, then you will because you're feeling so in love with yourself, your body, and with life, and you're feeling amazing about yourself, then you'll attract people, places, and things of that same vibration. That's why lucky people get luckier. It's not luck, it's energy. It's how do you feel? And that's determined by what you say to yourself, whether or not it's subconscious or unconscious. So what are you saying to yourself?
Trauma bond is a chemical addiction. So this is how it's created. And it's actually the strongest bond that we know in psychology, which is very, very difficult to break. It's this initial infatuation from these chemicals, dopamine, oxytocin, and then mixed with anxiety and fear. Love bombing, which is a state of idolization where they idolize you, tell you they're so curious about you, everything about you is amazing. What that does is it triggers your reward hormone in your brain called dopamine, which makes you feel fantastic about yourself. They often go quick to physicality, physical intimacy, which triggers something called oxytocin, which is a bonding hormone that also makes you trust. So it makes you trust them when you shouldn't actually trust this person yet because you don't know them, which is why we become blind when we engage very quickly in these dynamics and also become sexual very quickly. We go into a temporary state of obsessive compulsive disorder, which is basically also elevated levels of dopamine. We no longer see the person for who they are. We also start idolizing, and then we make very poor judgment and choices.
If you have a relationship in which there is the highest of highs, it's the most extraordinary highs, and then the most devastating lows, you are in a trauma bonded relationship. If you have never experienced, if this person is your soulmate, and yet at the same time he crushes your soul, that is a trauma bond. Our brains are addicted to, because when we get that rush, we get a rush of dopamine, which is the brain chemical that surrounds, it's the reward center of the brain. We're good, we did good, and we get rewarded with whether it's a Cartier bracelet or it's flowers, intensity of the makeup sex and the like, oh my God, the bond that we have. Right. Your brain gets addicted to returning to that place and is constantly seeking it.
There will be good times and there will be bad times. And during those bad times, we'll be punished. And what these highs and lows do is they create a bond with our abuser, essentially. So it's also called Stockholm syndrome. But I think because we associate Stockholm syndrome with people that have been kidnapped, we don't think about this as being something that's possible within our relationships that we have with people. And this trauma bond, it can be with anyone. It can be with a parent, a sibling, a co-worker, a boss, a romantic partner. It's wherever you're in a relationship where you're given attention, praise, love, care, kindness, and then all of that is taken away. And then during that time of absence, what happens is we are confused, we're angry, we don't know what's happening, we start to blame ourselves, we think that maybe we've done something wrong. And then when the person comes back to us and starts to give us positive attention again, because we're so happy that they've come back to us, what we do is we don't always pull them up or talk to them about the time where they were emotionally or physically distant, because we don't want it to happen again. We're afraid that it's going to happen again. So we just focus on the good times, the fact that they're back with us, the fact that that horrible situation is behind us, and that we're able to be in this relationship with a person that we love. But if this cycle repeats, what happens is we can become addicted to it, because you see, on a physiological level, what happens to us is during the time when we're on this emotional high. So imagine you're on this roller coaster. So your relationship with an abusive person is a roller coaster. And I mean, if you literally think about a roller coaster, when you first get on that ride and you're going up that steep hill to the top, it's exciting, your adrenaline's pumping, you're loving being with that person on that ride. And this is kind of the feelings that you feel when you're at the beginning of the relationship, and it's really intense, it's really passionate, they're love bombing you, they're like not letting you sleep because they're texting you constantly, they seem really into you, they're jealous, all these things that we kind of think are really positive because we think, oh my days, this person's really into us. But what it does is it creates a physiological response in our body. So we then get to the top, and then obviously with a roller coaster, you're off and you're up and you're down, and it's exciting. But if your relationship is like that, which is what most abusive relationships are like, it's tiring, it's exhausting. Like, you only ever want to really go on a roller coaster ride maybe once or twice and then you're done. Whereas if you're in a relationship with someone, this roller coaster ride of emotions that you are having with them can last years.
So how do we break that? How do we break out of that when that feels so good and we need it, we crave it, we have to have it?
We have a drug addiction. We need to treat it as a drug addiction if we need to break the trauma bond, which is why therapy is great, but alone it's not enough. So there's two things we need to do to break the trauma bond. First of all, we need to ensure that we have social support, and specifically with people who are safe attachment, meaning they give us acceptance, they give us support, they attune to us and listen to us, and they respond to us. Number two is understanding the chemicals that we just talked about. You need to find replacements for dopamine and oxytocin, because they will obviously crash when the abuser leave you, discard you, or abuse you. To come back and have a balanced hormone level again, you need to find how can we create reward that gives you dopamine and oxytocin as well. You can do that through eye contact, social contact, touch, go get a massage. You can set small goals you can achieve that release dopamine, exercise. Same time, have to do things that reduce adrenaline and cortisol, which are the stress hormones. Because what happens is when you have high level of cortisol through long times of stress, which is what you have with an abuser, your memory function actually shuts down and you can't store the memory properly anymore. Something called the hippocampus, which is part of storing memory, doesn't function anymore. And your perception of time starts shutting down, which is why you become in a traumatized loop you can't get out of, which also develop things like PTSD, post-traumatic stress disorder. And to help this recover, you have to also lower the element of cortisol, which you can do again with exercise, etc., with different somatic therapies have been shown to be great, yoga, which are really great at lowering that. So you can start what neuroscience is called integration, which is what trauma healing is, which is where we integrate your experience cognitively, which is what you get in normal therapy. You talk about it, blah, blah, blah. But just talking about it has not been shown to be that effective for PTSD. So if you suffer from that, a trauma-borne PTSD, you also need a way to integrate emotions and somatic sensations, because trauma is also stored in the body. If you don't teach your body how to feel safe again, you can still feel unsafe and traumatized years after the experience.
Educating yourself until you know the game, you know the tactics, you know the abuse cycle, you know the different types of abuse, you understand how that person is using your vulnerabilities against you. What will happen is you will always end up repeating the same cycle. And if you don't want to repeat that same cycle, time alone won't stop you from repeating that cycle. You have to do the work. And part of doing the work is educating yourself, getting a therapist and working through everything, unpacking all the trauma that was caused by that relationship. You know, work with someone who understands and can help you break a trauma bond.
Get the proper support. So you're going to want to join narcissistic abuse support groups, emotional abuse support groups.
For us to break a trauma bond, you have to get grounded in reality, no matter how painful that is.
In terms of our healing, if we're in a trauma bonded situation, we have to come out of denial. It's so important. We have to at least start telling the truth to ourselves. We have to find a support group that understands what this is going on, what's going on. We have to work with people who understand narcissism. We have to work with people that understand a trauma bond. We have to work with people who understand cognitive dissonance. Like, I'm not going to trust myself for a very long time. I'm going to question myself. I'm going to question if I'm the narcissist. I'm going to question if I'm wrong. I'm going to question my perception of things. I'm going to need someone outside of me that can hold that space for me so I can keep getting grounded and keep getting grounded. Being validated is super important, but at your own pace.
The moment you have the awareness that this is a pattern that you can break, you can actually release it in an instant. I mean, it really is that easy. But with a lot of things that are easy, they're not always simple. So it needs an extreme openness, readiness, receptivity. And because everything is so interconnected, just because you've healed it, it doesn't mean that the communication with your ex-partner, let's say, is going to be suddenly healed and straightforward.
Being heard and being seen is really important at that phase of just really understanding, oh my gosh, I was injured. That was an injury. You know, Whether there was a physical injury that was visible or not, that's not the point. Trauma of any kind is an injury. Grieving, it's really important. You don't want to overstep that one. And that's a place where talk therapy, where counseling can be very, very helpful.
A lot of times we are grieving for the parent we never had, the parent we don't have now, and the parent that they will never be. And we have to allow time for that as well. It's definitely a lot of grief and loss.
My feelings tell me if I'm happy, if I'm sad. My feelings tell me if I trust this person or I don't trust this person. My feelings tell me if I feel safe with this person or unsafe with this person. So feelings are everything. So getting back in touch with my feelings is really, really critical. The problem is if I'm the adult child of a dysfunctional parent, I've been taught that my feelings don't matter.
When you are feeling alone and when you're feeling like you're not grounded and when you're trying to get past the trauma bonds, I always say, be your own best mommy or be your own best daddy. Put that person in your mind, care for yourself, nurture yourself, talk to yourself and say it's going to be okay, or, you can do this or whatever it is. Over time, I think those words kind of get more evolved, like, who you want to let in and who you don't, that inner mommy or daddy will help you and it helps guide you.
To start being that parent who attune to what it is that you need and responding to that. When you do that, you're loving yourself, which is why boundary is love. It's an act of self-love. It's attuning to, oh, this doesn't feel good, and responding to that by then asserting the boundary and say, I don't want to do that. And remember, with boundaries, we often feel we have to justify our boundaries. You don't have to justify your boundaries to anyone. They need no justification. When people ask me, I don't often know logically yet why I don't want something. You might say, do you want to do a call? And maybe I don't want to, and I don't really know why. But it's enough for me to just say, it doesn't feel good right now. I don't know why, but it just doesn't feel good. And that is giving myself love, because I listen to my own safety cues. Love is safety, acceptance, and responsiveness, these three elements. So giving yourself love means that you attune to yourself, you listen to your own needs. That's self-love. What are my needs? And you express and try to give yourself those needs, which can mean setting up a boundary, right? That can be protecting a need. So that is attuning and responding, right? So that's giving yourself self-love, is actually being able to listen to your needs and responding to them, making sure you assert them. Remember, with boundaries, we often feel we have to justify our boundaries. You don't have to justify your boundaries to anyone. They need no justification. When people ask me, I don't often know logically yet why I don't want something. You might say, do you want to do a call? And maybe I don't want to, and I don't really know why. But it's enough for me to just say, it doesn't feel good right now. I don't know why, but it just doesn't feel good. And that is giving myself love, because I listen to my own safety cues.
Learn how to say no.
You cannot have a healthy dynamic without boundaries.
It's just voicing your own needs and wants. Maybe we practice setting boundaries first with people also that are unconditional supports in our lives, because and a boundary, right, is just voicing your own needs and wants. That's really what a boundary is, and what is acceptable to you and what isn't. And if you do it with somebody who is open to receiving that, they're going to be like, yeah, oh yeah, no problem, I understand, right? So maybe that's where we start practicing too, which can help us build up the confidence and the comfort around setting it with something that is more difficult.
I really do think that rules, standards, and boundaries are related. So you really have to work on the rules for yourself and just knowing yourself, doing things that you enjoy. And I once said this, that if you don't know what you enjoy because you were with the narcissist for so long, do something that they hate. Hate to do. just they don't like hiking, go hiking, because that's something that you may like. But I think over time, the more you get to know yourself, the more you feel like you're going to live, that you're okay alone. And then you start setting rules. Setting rules for yourself feels really good also. And then those rules lead to standards, and standards lead to boundaries. Because standards, if somebody doesn't meet your standard in life and they don't treat you nicely, you're going to set a boundary right away. And learn how to say no. If you have to look in the mirror and say no, learn how to say no. Because as a codependent and people pleaser, that's something that wasn't in your vocabulary.
We may still be uncomfortable. That's okay. That doesn't, mean we're in danger or anything like that. But like just leaning into our breath, taking that pause, trying to give space between the situation and our reaction.
Of course. So if you set a boundary, the other person, by definition, is going to try and violate it. Like, that's their job. Your job then is to reinforce it and hold it strong. And that's the hard part. It's really easy to set a boundary. The hard part is reaffirming it over and over and over and over again in the face of someone else trying to violate it. So your job is not to explain it deeper, further, more. Your job is to simply restate it. I'm sorry. Whatever. That's a boundary that I have. Please don't, you may not speak to me that way. No, I asked you not to do that. And then the next time they do it, you just hang up the phone.
While an abusive person, what they do, they will try and make you feel wrong about your boundary, or they will try and overpower that boundary. The safest way for you to protect yourself and also for start building a healthy dynamic is to work on the boundaries. And you can do that in a somatic way with a good trained therapist.
Well, you want to have a web of support, right? So you want to have people around you that are supportive and that are supports for you. That can be different things. It can be, trusted friends. It can be counselors.
The trauma that's formed in relationships, so meaning those traumatic feelings, wounds, experiences of being abandoned, of being insulted, of being made to feel not worthy or feeling not worthy in relationship, there is a big portion of that work that is done on your own in understanding yourself and taking accountability for the way that you've participated in it. And the deeper healing comes in secure and healthy relationships. That trauma, again, that was formed in relationship can really, really only be healed in relationship, where somebody shows you over and over again the healthier way of being loved, and when you're able to receive that love, which is also our part in this, right? We don't know how to receive healthy love when we've been traumatized. And so we accept less and the cycle continues on and on, right? When you are in a relationship that is secure, that is healthy, that allows you to have boundaries, that allows you to express yourself wholly and completely, that doesn't judge, that gives you space when you need it and gives you, love, attention, and cuddles and affection when you need it. When you have that for a long enough period of time where you can literally rebuild your nervous system with that type of attention, and you can rebuild neural pathways that say it is safe for me to express myself. It is safe for me to be myself. It is safe, for me to set boundaries and not be worried that somebody's gonna, yell at me, scream at me, gaslight me, walk away from me, leave me. That is where the real bigger, deeper repair really happens.
Clearing any distortions that were put in place to keep us disempowered, mental distortions, like that we can't do it, we're not strong enough, we can't survive without the abuser.
I really messed that up. I'm so stupid. What was I thinking? All these kind of negative messages that are very subtle sometimes. But when you tune in, you start to notice them and like, oh, wow, I'm really hard on myself.
We want to have those distortions cleared out of our mental space and our emotional space so that we can really see clearly and understand that those were control tactics. It's not the truth about us.
We speak to ourselves in a way we would never speak to a narcissist. And that's where that inner narrative has to change. We have to put ourselves first. We cannot keep saying we're stupid, we're dumb, we did this wrong, it's all our fault. That's not the way you would talk to a 2-year-old, right? So we have to start talking to ourselves as if there's a 2-year-old inside of us that's listening and believes everything that we're saying, because all we're doing is repeating what the narcissist has told us or conditioned us to believe. We're just repeating it now to our inner self, which is programming our subconscious mind for fear. And that's why I always say, once the narcissist gets inside your head, between your ears, they've got control over you. And you're doomed unless you can awaken. You're doomed because they control you from the inside out. And so when you take control over the inner narrative, when you start speaking lovingly to the self, that's when you turn your energy on. And you can teach yourself to do that automatically, which is what I work on every day. And that's how I help empower my clients too. So they're their own life force. So now when I'm my own life force, I don't need someone else to make me feel good, because I can make myself feel good. And now that I have the contrast, I know when you're not making me feel good. Now I can avoid you because now I know what feels good. So now I can trust myself and I can trust my instincts. And I'm so protective over that energy that there isn't a person alive that I'm willing to risk that for.
The purpose of mindset work is retraining the neural pathway. So, what are your thought patterns? Noticing your thought patterns, noticing your attraction. So you're noticing your negative thoughts or your negative patterns, and then you're reframing them for yourself in a way that is deliberate for your personal healing, right? So that's not just saying, I'm beautiful and wonderful in the mirror every day. Like, no, okay, fine. But if that doesn't resonate for you, it doesn't have much purpose. If you can stop for a minute and hear that guide, hear your intuition, know what is right, what is wrong. If you have your intuition and there's a part of you that says this relationship doesn't feel right, stop there and listen. Stop there, right? Because again, immediately the inner critic is going to come out and be like, oh, it's fine, or you just this, or blah, 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 blah. But no, wait, go back to that. What is that voice? And, at the end of the day, the brain, it takes 7 positive statements or experiences to override 1 negative in the brain. So it is important.
When you do something that you thought you did well, like go, oh, I feel like I did that well, and just giving yourself some praise. And so an easy way to do that, or a nice way to do that, is at the end of the day, just reflect on your day and consider the things that you liked. And they can be as simple as, I liked my outfit today. We tend to notice all the negative things. You may have heard of the negativity bias, which is like normal for our brain to look back on the day and see all the things that you didn't like about your day. And the more we do that, the more we're going to feel negative. So you can literally, maybe you'll have those, but highlight the good stuff. So when we see something positive that we're doing, or we feel a way that's positive, like even a moment of feeling good, we can just notice that and give that some attention, like, oh, I'm feeling good right now. And as we expand that moment, this is working with our nervous system, whether you're reflecting on it later or you're having it now. Like if you notice, oh, I'm enjoying this conversation, we can let myself enjoy that for a moment. And that will that will help your nervous system actually grow new neurons for more enjoyment, for feeling better over time.
We really want to have the most compassion for ourselves that we can find, and keep working on self-compassion is very, very important. Judging ourselves or making ourselves wrong for anything, it's not going to help with healing.
Looking back at the you that was shamed so many times, looking back at that you and seeing what was going on and just saying to that you know, you were actually pretty good. They didn't get you, but you were pretty good. I am proud of what you did. I understand why you did what you did.
Self-compassion consists of two elements. Instead of your inner critic, which will start saying, oh, I can't believe I went back to the narcissist, I'm so dumb, blah, 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 right? That's inner abuse. You're now being abusive. You're being a bully towards yourself, which is harming yourself. And compassion comes with also having understanding. Now you have understanding of why you go back. You can start being compassionate. And once you have an understanding that we all do the best we can in an attempt to try and feel safe, you can start becoming compassionate towards yourself and say, I went back to my abuser because I miss and lack human connection, because that's why you go back. So you have a natural, healthy need that, of course, can be met in a better way, but you can start being compassionate. So rather than being harsh, you can say, I really have a need for human compassion. And I'm struggling for human connection. So I seek it out in this person that I feel will at least give it to me temporarily. And that's a normal need. Then you can feel compassionate towards what you did instead of judging yourself. You meet yourself with what's called acceptance, which is actually part of love. Then it's giving yourself acceptance, which is the element we just discussed now, which is self-compassion or self-acceptance, right? Self-kindness. And then there's the last element of self-compassion, which is common humanity. It's accepting the common human experience that we all have. And when we do that, we feel compassion for everyone, even the toxic abuser. And compassion is not the same as tolerating and accepting their behavior. There should be no acceptance for abusive behavior ever. But when you get to that stage where you feel safe again, you know, I even feel very compassion for my abuser that I was with many years ago, because I realized that all they're trying to do is use dysfunctional strategies to try and feel safe. And they have learned a dysfunctional way to feel safe in this world. They know no other way. So I feel compassion for them, but it doesn't mean I tolerate or would ever let them into my life.
When we leave that relationship, the only way to win playing a game with a narcissist is to go no contact, is to not engage.
I believe very firmly that all of these relationships, they were so painful, they forced me to go deeper every time. It was another layer and another layer and another layer.
A crucial part of the healing that needs to occur is to look at not what they did to me, but what I put up with, you know, how I stayed, or how that already confirmed my negative self-beliefs, or, you know, what else was going on for me.
At a certain point, it stops being so healthy to keep revisiting all the things that happened, right? I think it's important to, you know, like I said, get the counseling, get the support, do all the things. And at some point, we really want to focus on life moving forward, because the thing is, you know, they already stole enough time from us in the past. Our life is ours moving forward, and we don't want to let them take any more of that away from us. And understanding that every person, you know, is equal. Every person on earth is equal. Again, we get to choose how we live moving forward, having a little ferocity on your own behalf. That's really important.
So I'm a big advocate for living courageously. And if you look at the word courageous, it means your heart, courage. It's from cœur, from the French. And, you know, first we have to find our heart. And if we've been putting layers and protecting ourselves, which is very normal when we've suffered any kind of abuse, there's a fragmentation of the body, and this especially applies to sexual abuse, by the way. There's a complete disconnection from the physical body because it's our protection. How can we possibly be connected in the body if our beautiful, sensitive, fragile, highly exquisite body is being treated like that? Of course, there's a fragmentation and disconnection.
Let's say you feel angry at your sister because she came over at midnight and she wanted to borrow your car keys and you didn't want to give them to her, and it's midnight and she woke up your kids. And so you're angry, but you're not used to feeling your feeling. And you would ask yourself, how do I feel in this moment? And you let the answer come up because your higher self will tell you, I feel angry. Now, you don't, before you push the feeling away, I shouldn't feel that way about my sister. It's not going to end well. Just allow yourself to feel it. The second step is, how do I know that I'm angry? Did your ears get hot? Did a lump come in your throat? Like, how did your body tell you she's crossing a boundary? When I get angry, I feel like I just stop. I'm not in the flow anymore. When we are codependent and or in a narcissistic relationship, we are arrested. We're not making conscious decisions. We're letting other people tell us what to do. We're paying attention to other people's moods. We're passengers in life. We're not making self-empowered decisions. So the third step is, I have to make a decision. So what decision are you going to make? Well, before you make that decision, you have to ask yourself 3 major questions. What about this can't I control? What about this can I control? And number 3, how do I want to feel on a day-to-day basis? Like, what's the vibration and state of being that I want to get to in life? So can I control that my sister was rude and obnoxious and came here drunk, banging on the door? She wanted my car keys. No, I can't control her behavior. Can I control that I'm even angry at this point? Well, not really. That's really how I feel, right? But what can I control? I can control how I respond to this situation. I can control whether or not I give her the keys. I can control whether or not I ruminate on it. I can control whether or not I yell at her. I can control basically how I respond to her. And the next step is, well, now I'm going to make a decision. So what decision do I need to make that is going to net me how I want to feel in the future? Well, that means I have to really think. How do I want to feel? How do I want to feel? I want to feel peaceful. I want to feel respected. Well, if that's how I want to feel in the future, it's not how I feel now, and that's okay. But how do I want to feel in the future? Well, I want to feel more respected. So what decision do I have to make now about being angry at my sister? I'm not going to give her the car keys, and I'm going to tell her that she can never come to my house and do that again. Why would I make that decision? Because it moves me towards empowerment. It makes me set a boundary, and I'm being honest with myself. And if my sister gets the message that I'm going to set boundaries as a new sheriff in town, then I absolutely will respect myself, and I will feel more respected in the future because she won't violate that boundary anymore. So if you do that consistently all day, every day, what do I feel? How do I know I feel it? How is my body telling me I feel that? What decision do I want to make about this? What can I control? What can't I control? And how do I want to feel in the future? And make a decision based on that criteria. You will reprogram your subconscious mind to pay attention to how you feel, to naturally hit the pause button, to tune into the self, to honor the self, and to take action steps in the 3D world that are in alignment with what you want to experience. You will become the captain of your own ship.
It's a healing journey. Sometimes it can take a while to kind of walk out of the woods. However long it took us to walk into the woods might be how long it takes to walk out. And there's no like prize for first place. There's no timeline. It's all about, being in a place of readiness to do that hard internal work.
We're light beings. We're healers, right? We're really good at self-healing. Sometimes we forget that. We are of the light, right? We are light beings, as some people would call us.
So I do believe that healing is possible for everyone. And I do believe that life can be much, much better than it ever was, and even than they imagined it can be. And it's all about coming out of that trance of misery and starting to discover what's good about your life and what's good about yourself. You know, and then one of the things you can like about yourself is, goodness me, I've become the kind of person who can be positive because I've looked at a flower, because I can enjoy that. I've become the kind of person who can enjoy things. Whoa, do I even know myself? What else am I capable of? And then you start to grow and blossom and get fascinated about yourself.
Healing is possible. I started like the healing journey long ago, like 7 years ago, and I have gotten a lot better. For me, it's a practice. Every day that I go back to my practices, like, you know, doing some movement exercises, like embodiment practices, maybe breathing exercises, you know, just something to keep me grounded and whole and balanced and regulate my emotions.
It doesn't mean that you have to follow a certain formula or do a certain amount of things. It's very personal. It starts with you. But once you have made that decision, and of course, you, like with many things, you'll go one step forward and 2 steps back. It's not all, you know, one clear straight road. But that shift is present in your energy, in your tone of voice, in, you know, even when you lose your temper, it's there. It's like an energetic signature that others will see, feel, and it can, you know, this is what something I think is fascinating, that we are now moving into this information age. It's an energetic age. It's a, you know, a creator economy, many ways you can call it. But the fact is that we are learning that we're more than just physical beings. There is so much that we can actually heal by being open to it ourselves, by having an insight into what is it, by identifying it, and also I think being responsible and growing. It's a kind of a growing up, taking responsibility for the future, and this comes to healing the planet and the environment, that you do have the power to change things, because it's a message of a lot of hope. You know, if we didn't have this opportunity to heal and to heal generations backwards and forwards, they even say, but definitely if we're looking at it from a linear point for our children, then that is a message of hope. And it's why we've evolved and we keep evolving.
What is your superpower?
My strength, and knowing that I can think it, believe it, and achieve it.
My ability to share my experiences.
Unconditional love.
Vulnerability, honesty, love.
I'm always willing to help people.
My heart.
I can love the people who have hurt me.
I can sense people.
Es resiliencia.
Being able to speak.
I'm a very, very fast learner.
The ability to relate to all different kinds of people.
I still always see the best part of every person.
Bringing people together.
I can find anything, anywhere.
I'm very supportive.
I'm just superwoman, honey.
Intuition.
Realizing my character.
To see the good in others.
Listening.
Courage.
My mother.
Authenticity.
To make friends.
Deep connection.
My ability to grow.
Helping others.
Growing.
Listen to my heart.
It's creativity and innovation.
Is recombobulation.
Is being me.
Seeing the world with wonderment.
Patient.
To understand at a very deep level.
Love.
Bring out the deeper parts in people.
To think logically.
Self-healing.
Motivate people from the heart.
A wszystkie kobiety, które dzisiaj słyszeliście, są dowodem na to, że ta zmiana jest warta tego, żeby ją podjąć i warta jest tego, żeby o siebie zawalczyć.
This was an experience that actually helped us learn how to love ourselves better.
Everything isn't happening to you. Everything's happening for you. We don't have to get trapped in the past story. Instead of believing that we're broken and wounded and nobody will ever love me, we need to shift that perspective and say, no, I'm a warrior. I survived the unthinkable. And now I am stronger and better. I have gone through it and I've come out even better than before.
Someone else out there is living our life. Someone else out there is living the life that all of these survivors and thrivers have escaped right here, right now. You can pick up any newspaper. You can go online to any news outlet and you'll hear about mostly women, some men, but mostly women who are killed by their boyfriends, who are killed by the children of their father. You hear it all the time. And so there's someone out there right now that is living your survivor story. And when you start speaking, you give that person hope. So suddenly, with the hope, they start to have this idea of choice. And that is really possible. That's where you can really help someone create great impact in that person's life, and if they stay on the path, they can then in turn create great impact in their life. They can end generations of trauma. They can end generations of codependency, generations of women and men picking the wrong partners and staying and not understanding what's going on. And I think that is so encouraging, and that's why you do what you do, because you want to encourage people to awaken and to take ownership over their life in a powerful way and to tell their story.
You just don't know what people have gone through in this life to live, to stay alive, to breathe, to not cry, to hide their laughter because someone else doesn't want them to laugh. Someone says, oh, well, blah, blah, blah has happened to me. Immediately take a breath and say, what if that were me? How could I handle that?
Your reality can change. Who you are can evolve. You need to focus on love to access the reality of who you are. You need to embrace love in your life.
But that's what we're missing in this universe. It's love. And that is the antidote to hate, crime, pain, depression, anxiety, and hurting each other.
Thank you so much for watching this episode. I hope you enjoy it. I would love to invite you for the next episodes, which is all about healing our body after leaving an abusive relationships. Exposé experts are going to talk about healing our body after leaving an abusive relationship. It's all about somatic approach of healing and feeling safe. Hope to see you soon. Bye! If this episode resonates with you, please go to exposenetwork.com. You will find the link below, and we would love to learn more about you and your story. Could you do me a favor and share this episode with at least 2 of your friends? Thank you. You can thrive and you can be happy after an abusive relationship. Do you have a story to share?
It's night in the city, and I'm on my way back home. Humming on my favorite ditty, swinging like Natalie Cole. But then out of the blue, who strolls down the boulevard but you? Your place is closer than mine. Why don't we go there and have some more wine? 'Cause life Waking up to a brand new day in between your sheets. Breaking up in the best of ways, and I'm back again on the street.